What's happening? Happy Tuesday to all of you. Thanks for joining us as always. I hope that you truly enjoyed your long holiday weekend. Of course, I was supposed to take Monday and Tuesday off. Yesterday, I worked at 98.5 The Sports Hub in the morning. Hopefully, you catch the show. And then today, I said, how in the hell could I not do a podcast and talk about the Boston Celtics getting to the NBA Finals? So I decided to record this a little bit later than I usually go live. My clock's been all messed up over the past couple of days. But here we are. We've got to talk about the Celtics getting to the finals after beating the Pacers last night and finishing the sweep. First of all, let's embrace this. Let's embrace the fact that what the Celtics did in the regular season was historic. We're talking about one of the 10 best regular season teams, maybe one of the top 5 to 7 regular season teams that we've ever seen play the game of basketball. That's great. It's fantastic. It's even better that that team went into the postseason as the odds-on favorites to get to the finals, and they went through the postseason with a record of 12-2 to get to said finals. It's fantastic. Then you also embrace the fact that this team went 9-1 without Kristaps Porzingis after he got injured in that Miami series. It's incredible. They are 6-0 on the road in the playoffs. And most importantly, which I'll get to in a second, they closed the deal. All of that is true. And all of that, I think, should be embraced and appreciated. We understand, I've said this from the very beginning of the season. This is championship or bust. This is all about Banner 18. But that doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge this great run to this point. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't appreciate what this team has done to this point. I saw some people jumping 60 seconds after the win last night, jumping on social media to drop their yeah buts. Give me a break. We're not going to see an NBA Finals game until June 6th. We have well over a week before we actually watch this team play again. I think we can take a couple of days and enjoy what we've seen. Soak in this run that they've had. And then we can talk about the finals and the matchup, whether it's Dallas, as it looks right now, or it's Minnesota. We will get there. But let's appreciate what this team has done, including how they closed against the Pacers. Dick Leip from NBC Sports Boston, he posted last night the closing bursts by the Celtics in the 3 clutch games in the series. In game 1, the Celtics outscored the Pacers 23-13 over the final 6:45. In game 3, they outscored the Pacers 15-4 over the final 3 minutes of that game. And last night, the C's went on a 15-4 run over the final 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Jared Weiss of The Athletic noted last night on Twitter, Indiana did not score. They did not score over the final 3 minutes and 33 seconds of that game last night. Those 3 closeouts mean a hell of a lot to this team. This is a team that has struggled with late game execution from time to time. It is a team that tends to slow down in the final minute or two, offensively, soaking the clock, being indecisive, not being as aggressive as they should be. And in this series, we saw a different Celtics team. We saw a C's that could finish. And a C's team that can finish is a very, very dangerous team. And so all the people who have been squawking about the inability to close out, what are they saying today? Are they moving the goalpost to criticize something else? Are they picking apart the finals that might happen on June 6th against Dallas? Or are they giving this team credit for the moment right now in what they just did against the Pacers? And don't give me the Pacers didn't have Tyrese Halliburton. I thought Andrew Nembhard played much better than Halliburton did on both ends of the floor as the starting point guard of this team the past couple of games. I thought he was much better in games 3 and 4 than Halliburton was in games 1 and 2. Much better. And don't sit there and tell me about the path. The Celtics deserve the path that they got. They earned that path, rather. They finished as the number 1 seed in the East by 1 billion games. They dominated the league, East and West, throughout the regular season. Their top stars played 70 games, and some even more than that. They didn't take breaks until the very end of the year because they had that huge lead in the Eastern Conference. So they earned the number one spot in the East. They earned this path. But to say, oh, well, this team had this injury and that team had that injury. It's funny. I don't hear a lot of people talking about how the Dallas Mavericks got through the Clippers in round one in 6 games when Kawhi Leonard played about a game and a half, and he was nowhere near who he really is. He was a shell of himself in that game and a half. Nobody's talking about that. They're too busy telling us how great Doncic and Kyrie Irving are in closing out games against Minnesota and how dangerous they are. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the Pacers, who had 7 games against a mash unit of a Knicks team to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So why should it be any different? Teams have injuries, and you play the guys that are in front of you, and you do what you have to do. The Pacers, they went to 7 games against the mash unit Knicks. Meanwhile, the Celtics, what have they done? They played a team in Miami that still had Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero and others. Beat them in 5. They played Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell was a part of that series for the first couple games at least. That team still has Darius Garland, a top 3 pick, and Evan Mobley and other guys that are good basketball players. And they beat them in 5. And then they finish by sweeping Indiana. So don't give me the path. It's nonsense. You play who's in front of you, and the Celtics have done exactly what they should have done. Take care of business, and they should get credit for that. Instead of continuing these narratives and always questioning this team as they get through an Eastern Conference sweep. I mean, they just sweep the team, and it's, well, it was the Pacers. Well, Halliburton wasn't playing. Well, the Pacers didn't play well at the end of games. Blah, 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 blah. So when the Celtics play great at the end of games, they don't get credit for it from a lot of people because, well, the other team melted. When the Celtics deal with an injury like Kristaps Porzingis and they just continue to win these series in the postseason, well, it doesn't mean as much because the other team was also down a key player. Oh, well, the Celtics have more ammo. Well, how about you give credit to Brad Stevens building this monster of a roster that could deal with a Porzingis injury? So here are some takeaways through this Eastern Conference run as we get ready for the finals. The right play. I don't know how many times I've said this talking about the Celtics. Just make the right play. When the Celtics make the right play, especially on the offensive side of the basketball, when they make the right play on that end of the floor, they are so difficult to beat. And what is the right play? The right play is paint touches, touching the paint to create your threes. The right play is being unselfish. The right play is having your superstars playmaking show up in the biggest moments. In the two plays that to me define the difference in this team came from your superstars. In game 3, on the road, as they're trying to close that game out against the Pacers on Saturday night, Tatum makes the drive, right? He's aggressive downhill. He collapses the defense in the paint. What's he do? He triggers a terrific, beautiful, perfect, behind-the-back bounce pass that lands right at the chest of Al Horford. So all he has to do is catch that basketball and go right up and shoot it. Unselfish, playmaking, touch the paint, found the open man. And then you had the play last night from Jaylen Brown. And really the play that decided that game. Jaylen Brown gets the switch. He has Miles Turner. What's he do in that moment? He doesn't take the step back 3. He drives past Turner. He gets into the paint. Sound familiar? Collapses that defense. Kicks it out to an open Derek White in the corner. Derek White, bang. Tatum and Brown, in the most crucial moments of those games, in the closeout seconds of those games, making those particular plays, to me, that draws a line in the sand. That is the right play. That is maturity. That is improvement. Both of your superstars being willing to give the basketball up to make the right basketball play, to find a wide open teammate to knock down a 3. in a moment when you had to have it. Those two plays personify this run that this team's been on this year. And they personify that series against Indiana. Late game execution when you absolutely freaking needed it. Tip of the cap to both of the superstars, because Tatum and Brown were both great in that series. Absolutely fantastic. Something else that jumped out at me, the top 5 depth of this team. And if Porzingis was playing, we could say the top 6 depth of this team. Everybody can hurt you, and everybody can hurt you in different ways. Everybody can really hurt you on both ends of the floor. That's what makes this team so tough. Derek White, just tremendous defense last night. He was all over the place, especially in the second half. His defense, his big corner three. Then you look at Drew Holiday. That 3-point play and the steal in game 3, right? Those two plays, the 3-point play with the left hand off the glass, and then he had that huge steal off Nembhard to seal the deal. And then you watch last night's game. He has another huge 3-point play. Has Obi Toppin, power forward, by the way. Plays bully ball, gets into the paint with the left hand off the glass. Very similar, pretty much identical to the game 3 play. He gets the and one. Showing up in the biggest moments. You know, the Celtics, they are 33-1 this year when Drew Holiday scores 14-plus points. 33-1. The only loss they had was on January 8th, which, ironically, was against the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. That's the last time the Celtics, and the only time the Celtics, have lost a game this year when Holiday scores 14 or more points, back on January 8th. They won 16 straight games. 16 straight, with Holiday scoring 14-plus points up until January 8th. They lost on January 8th, and since then they've won 17 straight since Holiday has scored 14-plus points. Holiday has been ridiculous. I've got more thoughts on the other pieces of the top 5, but first, I'll let you know the show is brought to you by Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Warzone has 9 maps on 30-plus acres of land, multiple villages, trench warfare map, hilltop forts. They've got paintball, they've got airsoft, they've got paintball and airsoft. Something for every age group, starting at 6+. I've said this before, show up with jeans, good shoes, long sleeve shirt. They take care of the rest. They help us. They help us here at this podcast by supporting the podcast financially, by sponsoring this program, helping a local guy, a one-man band, figure this thing out. I say we support them. Go have some fun in North Kingston, Rhode Island at Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Give them a call at 401-228-6366. That's 401-228-6366. Tell them the Nick Cattle Show sent you. We've gone through Derek White. We've gone through Drew Holiday and their contributions. How about Al Horford? Al Horford had the huge Game 5 against the Cavs to end that series. Then he had a big-time Game 3 against Indiana on Saturday night, knocking 3 after 3 after 3 down. Jason Tatum, do I need to say anything about this guy? In the Eastern Conference Finals, he just averaged 30, 10, and 6. I'll say it again for the people in the back of the room. Tatum, in this Eastern Conference Finals, averaged 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. He scored 10 points in the overtime of Game 1, winning that game. Game 3, multiple times made the right play. Made it to Al Horford on 2 occasions. He himself hit a gigantic 3 in that game. Last night, he had the drive to get within 2 when he drove right by Toppin for the dunk after the timeout by Joe Mazzulla. Made big plays last night when this team needed it. And, of course, Jaylen Brown, Eastern Conference MVP. And last night in the fourth quarter, my man was possessed. He got off to a rough start. That first half was bad from Jaylen. But, man, did he show up big time in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. A number of huge threes that they absolutely needed. There's a 5-point swing in the fourth quarter. The Pacers had a chance to get up by, I think it was 11. And TJ McConnell misses a layup. Celtics rush it up the floor. They find Brown in the corner. Miles Turner with a good closeout and contest. Brown knocks it down. A huge, huge 5-point swing. Crazy. Just a big shot. And then at the end, the final stretch, he had that step through floater. Then he came back and blocked Andrew Nembhard when Nembhard drove to the bucket. The driving kick to White for the game-winning three. I mean, everybody on this team that's been healthy in the top five has contributed in major ways in critical moments, whether it's White, Holiday, Horford, Brown, or Tatum. Every single one of them. We talked about the shooting of this team, right? A lot of people say the Celtics can't win games unless they knock down a bunch of threes. They can't win games unless they shoot great from three. They can't win big games if they don't shoot well from three. It's a crutch. Well, the Celtics shot 35% or better once in this series. That's right. They shot 35+% from three once during this sweep. And that is just a gigantic step forward. They were not making shots in this series, folks. They were not making threes. But it did not stop them. They didn't show any letdown. We've seen before that if the Celtics don't make threes, they have had this bad habit of kind of, dropping their shoulders and head, not playing the defense that they should be playing. Their offense is all out of whack. They start to speed themselves up. Not in this series. They were not making threes in this series, but there was no letdown. And when the team absolutely had to execute and make shots, that's exactly what they did in this Eastern Conference Finals. And to see that the lack of shooting, all the missed, and I'm talking about a lot of wide open threes, a lot of wide open and open threes in this series, Celtics could not throw the basketball in the water. They just could not throw it in the ocean. But they kept fighting. They grinded out wins. They found a way. They kept their confidence. They played with great pace. They remained unselfish when they needed to be unselfish in the final 5 minutes. They found a way. And that is a gigantic step forward. Because the old Celtics and even some of the Celtics that we've seen this year, that letdown would inevitably happen. They would have been down 18 in Game 3 on Saturday night on the road, not making shots, and they would have said, you know what? We'll be up 2-1. We'll come back on Monday night. We'll figure this thing out. And they would have had a little bit of a letdown. But they did the exact opposite over the final 18 minutes of that game on Saturday night, and they did it again last night. Not letting bad shooting get in the way of other parts of your game. And then forcing that into late game execution. All right, more coming up in a minute. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. The thumbs up means an awful lot as we continue to grow this YouTube channel. Nick Cattle's show here needs all of your support. It doesn't cost you a thing to like this show. It doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe to this show. Trying to hit 3,500 subscriptions by mandatory minicamp. About 2 weeks away from that. We're going to need a major push to get to 3,500. We can get that push with your help. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Also doesn't cost you anything to rate and review this program at Spotify and Apple Pods. Let's talk about Joe Mazzulla for a moment, because I thought Joe Mazzulla showed up in a big way. In Game 3, he went big. He went to Xavier Tillman. He changed some things around. He threw a bunch of different defensive looks at the Pacers in Game 3 to slow down their offense in that second half. He threw zone at them. He threw man-to-man. He threw a bunch of switching. He threw different lineups at them. And that's part of the reason how they came back in that game. I thought his timeout usage in Game 3 was really good. That's an area, as we know, of his coaching that has been criticized, and justifiably so, really mostly in year one. I think he's been better when it comes to his timeout usage this year, and I think he's been pretty damn good in the postseason with the timeout usage. Stopping runs before they get out of control. creating late opportunities in the final moments of the fourth quarter because you had some timeouts in your back pocket. In game 4, late game execution. Steph No from the Sporting News tweeted this out last night. Hope people noticed that Mazzulla did this at the end of the game. One, he took Tatum out at 3:54 for one defensive possession for a quick breather and to prevent him fouling out. Then he used his use it or lose it timeout to put Tatum back in with 3:32. Then out of that timeout, he emphasized targeting Obi Toppin, which resulted in a bucket. So Mazzulla, good timeout usage, smart strategy, draws up a great play to get that switch on Toppin. So good job by Mazzulla. And I also think he has a great handle of this team's temperament and understands what he needs to say at what time. He gets the vibe. You know, game 3, Tatum came out in the postgame and said that Mazzulla told them, stop feeling sorry for yourselves. We're still in this game. Don't act like this game is over. We've got plenty of time. Yeah, we're down double digits, but we've got a lot of time. We're a good basketball team. Just make the right play. Stop feeling sorry for yourselves. In the preparation, you know, the last night, Brian Robb, my buddy at Mass Live, wrote about this, about Mazzulla's quote-unquote championship stations. This came up last night, Derek White in the postgame. He said, quote, it starts in practice. The championship stations that Joe loves to do, it starts there. So we feel comfortable in any type of game, and we feel like we've got the answers for anything that teams throw at us, no matter what the scenario is. And we just got to find the right ones. Tatum shed some more light on the championship stations. It's the little things that we talk about that can help you win a championship. Defensive rebounding, crashing the glass on the offense, communicating. Just little things we do every single day that can take you a long way. Jaylen Brown, quote, I'll give credit to our coaching staff. We were very organized. This year we went over a lot of late game situations and stuff like that. We're always trying to think the game. Drew Holiday, I think Joe's pretty good at, I wouldn't say predicting situations, but kind of putting us in awkward situations or situations that are very, very possible. The last 2 games, we were down 8 with 2 minutes left. And I think to be able to manage the game, having Derek White out there manage the game, and then JT and JB kind of take over, it's exactly what Joe was talking about. I think we have the mindset and the character for it. And then we just went out there and showed it. So Mazzulla preparing his team for these difficult challenges late in games, and how to execute properly, and how to communicate properly, and how to continue to believe in yourself. Let's talk about the Celtics in the clutch. Clutch minutes, okay? When we talk about clutch play, 5 minutes left in the game, the final 5 minutes, and the game's within 5 points. The Celtics, when they're in those kinds of games, when they're in that territory, they're now 4-0. 4-0 in clutch games. Oh. Allergies taking over for a second. 4-0 in the playoffs in clutch games. Their offensive rating is 129.3. It's crazy. Their defensive rating is 85.4, which is even crazier. Their net rating is a plus 43.9. And this isn't just the postseason. They were actually damn good in the regular season in clutch games. Their record was 21-12, but they were the 6th best offense in clutch time in the regular season. They were the 6th best defense in clutch time in the regular season. And they had the 4th best net rating in clutch time during the regular season. They actually played really well in the clutch overall in the regular season, and they've carried that into the postseason where they've been even better. All right, let's wrap up this podcast with some stats to keep things in perspective. NBC Sports Boston had this last night. The most career playoff points before turning 27 years old. Kobe Bryant, number 1, 2,694 points. Tatum, who still has the finals to go, right? He's only 26, but he will turn 27 right before the playoffs next year. So he's got the finals, 2,600 points. He's 94 points behind Kobe Bryant for the most career playoff points before turning 27. Tatum is actually above LeBron James. LeBron James has 2,578 points, or he had 2,578 points before he turned 27 years old in the postseason. So Tatum has more postseason points before turning 27 than LeBron James did in any other player in NBA freaking history. And he's 94 away from tying Kobe. If he scores 95 points in this finals coming up, he will have scored the most points before turning 27 in NBA playoff history. Wrap your head around that. Here's a good one about Derek White from Boston Sports Info. They posted players in conference finals history with 16 or more points, 4 or more rebounds, 4 or more assists, 5 or more steals, and 3 or more blocks, and 0 turnovers. Derek White, that is the list. So Derek White is the only player in conference finals history to give you 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 steals, 3 blocks, and 0 turnovers. Here's some notes from Dick Light. Celtics are headed to the NBA Finals for the 23rd time after closing the burst to sweep the Pacers. Over the final 145 of regulation and overtime. For game 1, Celtics had that 23-13 run. Crazy. Boston tied the franchise record for consecutive playoff wins. They've won 7 in a row. That was set by the 1986 team and earned its team record 8th consecutive playoff road victory. But they don't have the dog mentality. 8 straight road playoff wins. And improved to 4-0 in the clutch. Tatum is just the 3rd player in NBA playoff history to have at least 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists in back-to-back conference finals games. The others, LeBron James, and James Harden. Last night was Tatum's 22nd career playoff game with 25, 10, and 5, tying him with Wilt Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor for 5th most all time. He's 26. The only players with more of those 25, 10, and 5 games are LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Nikola Jokic, and Larry Bird. Keep it all in perspective. Heading to the NBA Finals, baby. June 6th. Hopefully, Kristaps will be 100% and ready to go. Looks like it will be the Dallas Mavericks. We'll see if they can close that series out tonight against Minnesota. I am excited. I am fired up. I'm pumped and jacked like P.T. Carroll on a Sunday. I can't wait. Can't wait, as Bart Scott once said. Kind of a tough memory, but a great quote. That'll do it for today's, I don't know if I call it emergency podcast, flip the script podcast, as I decided to go with this. How can I not talk about the Celtics getting to the finals? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for free, rate, and review. Back tomorrow, regularly scheduled programming, 11 a.m. right here on YouTube. Until then, this has been the Nick Cattle Show.